Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Touring here, and today, guys, I'm here with another Total War Warhammer online commentary. In this battle, I'm going to be playing the Warriors of Chaos, and I'm going to be facing off against the Empire. So this is a pretty new build. I don't know if I've actually used it on the channel yet, but I've been using it a lot against Empire lately, and I've been having great success. It seems pretty strong, and let's get right into the composition. So in the front line, I have mostly Chaos Warriors, and the reason I bring them, again, you're going to wonder why I don't bring, the armor-piercing variants against greatswords or things like that. It's because I try and do a bit of a hammer and anvil type approach. These guys, they do have actually silver shields, and on top of that, they also do have 44 melee defense, so compared to the ones with great weapons, they're going to last a lot, essentially a lot longer in sustained melee combat. So for the armor piercing, I actually decided to bring some Chaos Trolls, which is so much fun. They're fast, they hit incredibly hard, and if you can actually keep them on the battlefield, these guys are just absolute beasts, and they can really do their own. Whereas if you bring the Great Weapon variant in the front line with the Chaos Trolls, the Great Weapons might crumble a little bit quicker, which will trigger a Friend's routing penalty on the Trolls. So having a more sustainable front line works a little bit better with Trolls. And also on top of that, I do have some Aspiring Champions in the back line, and of course, Prince SIGVALD. So, of course, playing against competitive Empire players, more traditionally, they're going to try and snipe your heroes and do cycle charging and things like that. And Archaon, unfortunately, takes a huge beating from cycle charging, and so does Kolek, as he takes the full brunt of the cycle charging. But Prince SIGVALD seems to be the most resilient against them. He does have expert charge defense, he's armored, shielded, and he also does have self-regeneration, so it's kind of similar to Boris Todbringer. If we go ahead and look in here, he does have this Auric armor, which provides pretty good healing, so pretty interesting little front line there. And of course, it wouldn't be a complete anti-infantry build, or excuse me, anti-empire build without Forsaken. So Forsaken can deal with spearmen, halberds, swordsmen, flagellants. They essentially just beat the brakes off all of those units. They have 64 weapon strength, they're extremely fast, and really, really efficient at getting around the flank. So I do have one group of Forsaken here, one on this side. I also have one in the back, so if there's kind of an opening in my front line, I can kind of use them to plug or go after some squishy units, and they usually do the trick. So guys, kind of the main component of this build is using Lore of Death. So I was kind of asking myself, I played so many games against Empire, I was just getting chain cycle charged, and I didn't really have a great way of retaliating. Even if I got Cav or some mobile units or Poison Warhounds, they always seemed to be able to get away. So I was like, how do I deal with this? Well, Spirit Leech seems to be the answer. Spirit Leech is very, very strong. Actually, even though it did get nerfed, back in the ancient times when Spirit Leech was really abused in multiplayer play, it's still a very, very good tool. And the Lore of Death also has this really nice kind of ability here. If we take a look, the life leeching. So essentially, Lore of Death gets really, really good cost-effective regeneration on Winds of Magic. So you can usually use a Fate of Buna, a Spirit Leech, and even a few other spells if you kind of have your arsenal ready to go. So I do have a Chaos Sorcerer with Death here. He does have a Scroll of Leeching. So I also was like, how do I deal with Flock of Doom spam, Lore of Life spam, and all that kind of stuff? So I wanted to give this a try. So the Scroll of Leeching, you cast on an opponent, and for almost a little over a minute, actually, it reduces their recharge power rate, which is pretty good. So I do have a Fate of Buna here, and guys, Fate of Buna is so strong. I completely forgot about it after they nerfed it and kind of fell out of the popular meta, but it's so powerful. It can destroy a group of greatswords. It can take a group of Demogryph Knights down to like 50-60%. It's just really, really good. So I do have another Chaos Sorcerer with Lore of Death here for the double Spirit Leech action, and essentially I just wanted to be able to punish him. Every time he came in and cycle charged me, I wanted to be able to Spirit Leech him and at least give some tit for tat in that respect. In the back line, I do have some Chaos Warhounds with Poison and some Chaos Knights with Lances. So that's pretty much it for my army, guys. Let's get right into this Empire fun business. So he does have the Amber Wizard with the Flock of Doom. Pretty traditional. It's one of the kind of the staples of competitive play. It's basically like having two, generals. They both have 450 weapon strength with heavy, heavy armor piercing. And if they're cycle charging in tandem with one another, they can just put a huge beating on armored units, or pretty much anything for that matter. So very, very tough to deal with. And the Flock of Doom, even though it did get nerfed, it's still not terrible against clumped infantry balls, kind of like what I brought, for example. Aside from that, he does have a mixture of flagellants, kind of mixed in with greatswords. So the flagellants are pretty decent against Forsaken, and obviously they'll beat the hell out of Marauders if I did decide to bring them, but still a decent choice, and they're very cheap, they're unbreakable, and will really allow your front line to hold. I've been in many games where I've had a group of Forsaken or Chaos Warriors that have just been they annihilate the flagellants, right? And there's 5 models left, and they're just there fighting them for a few minutes, and I kind of forget about it. So flagellant's not a terrible choice. Aside from that, he does have some great swords, which is a little bit more traditional for the armor piercing. Looks like some more great swords over here and some flagellants on the wings. And he does have the Steam Tank. So the Steam Tank is one of the hardest things to deal with by far. It does cause terror and fear, which is pretty tough. So if it gets it in the middle of kind of the infantry blob, and unfortunately a lot of Chaos troops like Chaos Warriors and Chosen aren't immune to psychology, so you're just going to have to suffer that, unfortunately. And also on top of that, it is unbreakable. So being as sturdy as it is with 160 armor, when you use Lore of Life over here with this Jade Wizard on top of the Steam Tank, it is so hard to kill. So a very, very, I would say, competitive build. As far as, I don't know about the Flagellants, I would probably replace them with Halberds, but still Flagellants seem to be a pretty good pick. All around, they hold the line, they're unbreakable, cannot complain. So in the back line, he does have several groups of crossbowmen. He also has spearmen here, here, and here. So definitely looking to kind of intercept some of my cav. And these spearmen should be pretty good against the Chaos Trolls, to say the least. So without further ado, guys, let's get right down to business. So he's kind of flying around looking to see if he can clip my wings a little bit. He was going in very aggressively after these Forsaken, so I actually pulled them back and then pulled my Chaos Knights with Lances and my Warhounds to kind of cover. Because again, it's very, very easy for Boris to kind of fly in, you know, kill a few models and then simply get out very, very easily. The Imperial Griffins are so hard to catch. I feel like they can just escape blobs and, you know, again, just very elusive. So I am sending this group of Forsaken out around the wings as I usually do in this matchup. And you can see I'm pathing my Chaos Warriors in the front line. And obviously the Greatswords will, beat these Chaos Warriors pretty handily, but I do have the Trolls kind of backing them up. And Chaos Trolls, if left unimpeded against Greatswords, do an excellent job and can do really, really well. So you can see as General of the Empire and Boris, my Hounds got a little bit overzealous there, so he kind of checked me a little bit, was keeping an eye on him. But I am going to get around with these Chaos Boys and Warhounds and these Chaos Knights with the Lances and start trying to pressure this flank. He does have some spears, but still I feel like I should be able to get in there. So my opponent does overcast with a Flock of Doom, and it gets a pretty nice hit. He hits my Forsaken, my Chaos Warriors, a bunch of goodies in my front line. So I do send this Chaos Sorcerer with the Lore of Death to kind of prod him a little bit, but unfortunately he did run out of my range. So over here on the far side, I did get some Forsaken who are kind of posturing, getting ready to go in, but my opponent does pull out some Flagellants, and the Flagellants will lose this. They're much weaker, but still it's not a great trade. I will take some casualties, so I do pull back using my superior speed, and just look at these freaking track stars just running away. So I wanted to get on those spears and just tear apart his flanks. So over here, I do finally get a Spirit Leech on this Amber Wizard, and you can see he's going to start taking some pretty decent little HP damage right now. So again, the Amber Wizard is one of, the strongest units he has, so I really wanted to get in there and make sure I was doing my part. So you can see in the front line, the Chaos Trolls have engaged on Greatswords, which is just the prime situation. Greatswords aren't going to do much damage against the regeneration of these troops. They don't have an anti-large bonus, and the Trolls have heavy, heavy armor piercing. Granted, if I do take Missile Fire like I am taking right now, these Trolls are going to break pretty quickly, but they're doing their Sparta kicks, they're having a good time, they're throwing up, and then another group of unarmored Trolls comes in pretty hard, and this is definitely one of the most fun aspects of this matchup. And who would have thought Chaos Trolls could be good, but they do a huge amount of damage to those Greatswords. But my opponent coming in and intercepting with Boris, and you can see he's going right after my leadership, which is very traditional with this matchup. So he goes after this this Lore of Death Wizard right here. You can see him going in, and I do use the Scroll of Shielding just to kind of prevent that, but I actually did get away, so it wasn't as big. But I do retaliate with another Spirit Leech. He does use an Earthblood, but he's still taking huge damage. And you can see I do use that Scroll of Leeching on him to kind of make the Winds of Magic regeneration that much lower, and it seems to be working really well. Even though he's coming in and cycle charging me, these Lore of Death Wizards are just really, really punishing his caster, and you can see another Spirit Leech going down, so I was definitely giving them a taste of their own Empire medicine and just kind of these really ridiculous tactics. But look how hard this guy goes down. He is just getting beaten down, and down he goes. So the Lore of Death Wizards and SIGVALD and the guys were able to just deal with him so effectively. But granted, he's still not out of the game. That is a very, very expensive investment to lose, but he still does have a Jade Wizard. So, it's completely, still a very, very heated battle. So over here, some of my Forsaken are able to get in the back and penetrate. They were able to maneuver around those Spearmen, and they're such a fast unit. And you can see this guy gets beheaded. They're coming in pretty hot. I do have some Hounds coming in, but the Steam Tank should be able to rout these guys off. But also the Chaos Knights were able to outmaneuver these Spears, as these Forsaken here were able to kind of take up those Flagellants, which he was using to kind of screen. So the Chaos Knights are going to hit very, very hard, and if they're able to get in here and do some pretty good shock damage against these crossbowmen, it's going to be pretty backbreaking for my opponent. So a little bit of an awkward charge, but I think I was going for this deep group here, and these guys with Lances have a great, awesome charge, and you can just see some huge, huge flying going on right now. And man, they're basically just chosen on Cav if you look at them stat-wise. I mean, their melee defense and melee attack isn't as high as the sword variant, but still, they have very, very good stats, and I think 120 armor, so that's going to be very, very hard for Spearmen to get through, even with their anti-large. So in the front line, you can see Boris is continuing to get Spirit Leech, which is great. My opponent still does have a very, very strong pocket of troops. He has some great swords and another group of great swords here, which will honestly, if left unimpeded, do some excellent damage and probably, not win this fight against these sheer numbers, but do very well. So I do use a Fate of Buna, and guys, check out the HP damage it does. It just tears these guys to shreds. So I honestly think Lore of Death is by far one of the best answers against the Empire, because number one, it can really counteract cycle charging and punish them for coming in and kind of giving them a taste of their own medicine in that respect. And number two, it's just the Fate of Buna can deal with Demogryph Knights, it can deal with Reichsguard. It's very good against Greatswords. And you can see we're able to just crumble this line, even with a lot of troops that traditionally don't have armor piercing. So the Forsaken and all these other goodies are continuing to get in the back line, just applying a ton of pressure to these crossbows. And it looks like the back line, for the most part, has been compromised, but still his Steam Tank was able to secure this flank in tandem with Boris Todbringer. And you can see some of my Forsaken and my Hounds are running for the hills, but the Chaos Trolls are charging in, going after this Steam Tank right here. The Spearmen tried to get in the way, but the Trolls are pretty fast and aggressive. But the one issue with Chaos Trolls against Steam Tanks is they route extremely quickly. You can see their leadership right now is 40, which actually isn't bad, but you can see in just a moment here, they're probably going to tear out once they start getting attacked. They get sent down to 33 leadership, and they're not going to last long now that these spears are kind of start re-engaging, and those Trolls just getting knocked around. So the other group of Trolls is coming in with some Chaos Warriors trying to go after these guys. And actually, believe it or not, trolls don't do too badly against steam tanks. They have armor piercing, they hit very hard, they're fast, so they can actually keep up. They have 54 move speed, so they're faster than the steam tank, which is one of the biggest issues. And the steam tank will rout them, will push them back, but they'll regenerate, and then they'll come back, I guess I wouldn't say even stronger, but, with a vengeance. So they've done some pretty good HP damage henceforth here. So over here, you see a pretty big Zerg, you see SIGVALD, and he does have the Lore of Death Sorcerers, and my Winds of Magic right now is completely taxed, so I've kind of run on dry in that respect, but I am going after Boris, who's a little bit surrounded, but still, I don't have a ton of armor piercing here. So Boris, with his regeneration, you can see he's healing pretty quick, taking, chunks here and there, but for the most part, he should be able to kind of sustain for a moment. But SIGVALD actually, in a straight fight, Boris could just cycle charge him to death, but SIGVALD can heal very, very well and has excellent combat stats as well. So over here in the back line, there are some Chaos Warriors kind of fighting against these greatswords here, and man, they were just fighting tooth and nail, but granted, I didn't have a ton of AP, and I put a lot of my marbles on the trolls, but then these Chaos Knights are just going to come in and mop the floor with these guys. So over in the back line, you can see the steam tank is kind of routing my guys off perpetually. These trolls are coming back, but guys, look, they're regenerating. Their HP is coming back up. They're not near their healing cap. I do get a Spirit Leech, and that was another reason why I think Lore of Death is so good, because Spirit Leech, believe it or not, is very, very good against the steam tanks, it seems. It does quite a bit of damage. It's good for single targets, and, if he's running and kiting you out, you can just Spirit Leech him, bring him down, and then use the trolls to kind of seal the deal there. So the Chaos Knights are coming in. Looks like there's a Flagellant or two. These guys probably aren't in for a good time against the heavy armor of these Chaos Warriors, but they are charging in. Definitely pretty brave bros over there, but still, the steam tank is pretty much all he has left, and I think that is all she wrote. So we'll go ahead and fast forward here, because again, it's just the steam tank getting beaten down at this point. But guys, this Lore of Death is so good against the Empire. This is like one of like 6 or 7 games I've played against, a multitude of pretty competitive Empire builds. Granted, I don't think this was the best Empire build, but it still had a lot of the elements of that really, really tough to deal with build. Jade Wizard with the Steam Tank, the Amber Wizard, and the Boris kind of cycle charging, and just that really aggressive AP on your Flying Lords. But SIGVALD is also another kind of key to victory here, because if you have like Archon or Kolek, number one, they cost like twice as much as SIGVALD. If you strip down SIGVALD, he's only going to cost like 1,300 gold, and that really allows you to get these like double sorcerers and mixing Chaos Trolls into afford Chaos Knights. So he seems to be a pretty good pick here. On top of that, the Spirit Leech is very, very good at dealing with the Amber Wizard as well as the Jade Wizard. It's not good against Boris because he does have healing, but interestingly enough, the Jade Wizard wasn't really healing. I think it actually did pop an Earthblood on that Amber Wizard, but it still wasn't enough. So another criticism of the build I would have is the crossbowmen are okay against the trolls, and they actually perform really well and initially routed the trolls, but I would have liked to have maybe seen 2 of those and maybe get some additional backline defense, or the silver bullets. I think they should have been brought. I wouldn't have seen them. He could have got like a really good advantageous engagement on me, and things could have been a little bit different. So regardless, very well played to my opponent. Honest mistake. I look forward to seeing you again on ladder, and I hope you guys enjoyed that chaos build. Have an excellent night and take care.